Dandy Dungeon, Legend of Brave Yamada. Feed Me, and Roll Dice Gaming. This is Staying In.
I don't know if I told you about this, actually. I went to Roll Dice Gaming. Did I tell you about this on the weekend?
I did. You didn't tell me about it.
Yeah.
But I did see something on our brand new Staying In Pod Instagram.
No, never miss a beat. Always hustling.
Feed.
Yep. But
did you not tell me that you were going so I wouldn't give you money and make you buy me another game?
Yeah, basically. So Roll Dice Gaming is like a Bristol-based games event, tabletop event. So there have been a couple so far in Bristol over the last couple of years that have started and either not quite taken off or gone in a slightly different direction to like UK Games Expo. So City of Games is here in Bristol and is pretty cool, but it's all about like, it's not really like a show. It's more of a like turn up and play board games, and that's very nice. And I went to that and that was fun.
Did they have like a library of games?
That one, yes. So at City of Games, they had like a library of games, and there were a couple of stalls, but I kind of thought there'd be more stalls, but there weren't. And it was kind of like built for come and bring one of your favourite games or pick up one from the shelf and come and have a play. And that's very fun. Not my kind of thing generally, unless I've gone there in mind to do that. And obviously, I went to UK Games Expo. That's in London. No, it's not. It's in Birmingham. And not everything is in London. Went to Birmingham. That was very nice. And that's absolutely massive. And obviously, we talked about that before a couple of times. And I've been to Dragon Meet, which is the one that's in London. That's run by Modifius.
Is that spelled MEET?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah.
It's very clever. And that one was very good. That's usually in December-ish time. I want to go to that one again this year. This one is called Roll Dice Gaming. And and I didn't really know what to make of it because it was really, the website that they have for it was really quite confusing as to like what the aim of the event was going to be. So I went there thinking it feels like it's going to be a mix of board games, miniatures, like competitive miniatures games, like proper, playing on a tabletop stuff, painting competition, stalls, playing areas, RPGs, and like I got just before I went into the actual event itself, I was like, I really don't know what to expect. It feels like it's going to be everything, but it can't be all of these things. There's no way that it's actually going to be all this stuff. And I turned up to Ashton Gate, which is a football stadium. It's for the football team Bristol City Football Club, and they hire it out for special events, more special events, differently special events, I'm sure, other than playing football. And so
now you're saying that, it makes you think like it was just lots of tables on the pitch.
On the pitch, yeah. No, that would have been really good. Actually, I didn't see a blade of grass actually while I was there. It was quite disappointing. No, it was in two little big halls that they have as you go in, and I think I assume it's where people go in beforehand to buy their snacks and drinks, like your pint of ale and your pie or whatever it is that you get at football, and they hold it all there. They use that for different events, and it was all of those things, and also not quite any of those things, and it was a good first event, I think. Because I think this is their first event, like certainly the first Roll Dice Gaming I've ever heard of, and as far as I can tell, it's their first one there. And I think it was a good first event. It felt very first game event syndrome, as in, went there, and like, first of all, people didn't really know how the ticketing system had worked. So I turned up and I was like, I'd like to buy a ticket, please. And they were like, yep, that's fine. And then I went through and there was people giving out goodie bags, and I was like, oh, cool, can I have one? And they were like, nope. And I was like, oh. And they said, "Oh, can I see your raffle ticket?" I was like, "Raffle ticket?" No, yeah, everybody gets a raffle ticket. I was like, "Okay." So I went back to the front desk and said, "Can I have my raffle ticket?" And they said, "Oh, did you pre-order?" No, I didn't know I could pre-order. No, if you pre-ordered, you get a raffle ticket, but because you didn't pre-order, you don't get a raffle ticket, so therefore you don't get the goodie bag. I was like, oh, that's a bit of a shame. Didn't say that. I couldn't find that anywhere on the website. I didn't read about that, and anyway, I was like, oh, okay. So I went, and then they said, could you tell the man that keeps handing out the goodie bags? Because, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'll go and do that.
Is that when they handed you the tabard?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
you were
so I was like,
full on, you are now employed as a member of Roll Dice Gaming.
Yeah, exactly. So I went over and I was like, well, okay, this is how it works.
You're his boss now.
yeah, I was like, okay, this is how it's working out. And they were like, oh, okay. And I thought, well, maybe that deserves a goodie bag. Didn't deserve a goodie bag. And the goodie bag looked pretty good, actually. It had some really good looking free tat in there, like a free copy of, I think it's called Wargaming Monthly or something like that. It had a little plastic toy on it. And it had some Star Wars dice, because Asmodee were at the event, and in a pretty cool way, they were supporting the event quite well with all this goodie bag stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then they were like, oh, okay. And then my friend Tom, who runs the company that I work at, he turned up about 20 minutes later with his kids, and he turned up, and I was like, "Oh, did you pre-order your tickets?" And they were like, "Yeah, pre-ordered tickets." "Oh, brilliant! Well, you'll get a goodie bag." So we went over to the team with the goodie bags, and then they were like, "Oh, well, you need your raffle tickets." And he was like, "Oh, I didn't get given a raffle ticket." So we went back to the front desk, and they were like, "Oh, so I pre-ordered my tickets. I've been told if I pre-order my tickets, I get a goodie bag." And they were like, "Oh, no! If you got the early bird pre-order tickets, then you get a raffle ticket." And by this point, I was just like,
just give us a goddamn goodie bag. I mean, how many of them did they have?
I know.
They put so many rules in place.
But I was just like, I don't really. So, but that is. But I know I'm focusing on the negative here, and I will do for a lot of this. But that is classic first event problem, right? Okay, yeah. Because you do the second one, and all that stuff's been worked out. The person, at the end of the event, they say, okay, well, what worked, what didn't? And they say, well, there were these arseholes who kept asking about
We've got 60 goodie bags left.
Yeah, exactly. And so you work all that stuff out, and I know that that's going to get sorted. And you go into this thing, and the first thing that's a big problem is that, so the main atrium is where the goodie bags are, and then to the left and to the right are tables. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you're like, well, which one should I go into? And you're like, oh, I'm not really sure where anything is, so I'll just go into one of these things. And you go into the space, and you're like, what is this space being used for? And the answer is everything. So around the edges of the room, there were stalls, interesting stalls with stuff like shops. Chaos cards were there, for example. So were publishers of games and really indie developers of games, and all kinds of different board games. And then there was a wargaming place, and there were this pro art brushes people. They were there, and I bought some brushes from them. But also in the space were massive tables for wargaming on. I was like, okay, cool. And these were all set up, and then a few people were using them. And then right next to that, so that was all where the wargaming stuff was being used. But it kind of meant that the space, this left-hand wing that I went into, the space was massive, absolutely gigantic. And there were lots of people there, but the space was so big that it felt like no one was there. But there were loads of people there, but you felt like, and so it's like, again, this is like first game problems in that I didn't walk away from that event going, the atmosphere of Roll Dice Gaming is this. Whereas when I come away from Dragon Meet, I'm like, nerds talking about RPGs. It's that. Like a celebration of RPGs. And that when I come away from UK Games Expo, I'm like, the biggest board game event in the UK. Like, these are the things that I get, you know what these things are. Whereas I walk away, and City of Games even is like, bring your friends and bring a game. Like, it's that. Whereas Roll Dice Gaming was very like, I don't know who this is for. That being said, I did get to see a load of really cool games there, like, and really interesting different things. I ended up buying an RPG called Era the Consortium, because
that sounds standard.
Generic, super generic. Yeah, it seems pretty cool. Like they've written a universe that is 500 years of history, and you can play whenever you like in it.
Wow.
But they were there. It's like super indie stuff like that. All the way up to Asmodee were there giving away stuff, and the game that I actually want to talk about, which is the prelude to all of this, which is, do you know Gen 42? Have you heard of them?
Yes, they publish Hive.
They do Hive. That's their big one, and they do a bunch of other games as well. I'm sure they're very good, but I've not played any of them. So I really like Hive, and
me too.
I believe the owner of Gen 42, certainly one of the designers there, is a guy called John Yanni. I'm totally botching his name, I'm sure. And he was there, and he was showing one of his games. And there's not a lot of information out about this game at the moment. And it's called Feed Me. And and so I was with Tom, and he's got two young daughters. And they're kind of, they're fun. I mean, they're growing up with a game designer. They're going to be little nerds, I'm sure. And they're definitely into games and understanding and playing games and having fun, as any small little kid will do. And Feed Me is very much aimed at younger kids, much younger kids. But it seems like the kind of thing that might stretch up to maybe adults might get something interesting and fun out of it, in the same way that people do out of like Rhino Hero.
Yes.
But so Feed Me is a game where, imagine you've got a little plastic tray, and it's at like a 45-degree angle, and at the top of it you have a little plunger that pushes a metal ball that you've placed on top of it into the space like a pachinko ball, right?
Oh yeah, okay.
And the idea is that you need to get the little metal ball into the little slot at the base of the plastic unit, and to do that, you need to navigate a puzzle that has been created for you using these these little cardboard sleeves that you pull in and out that are basically like levels. It's kind of like a level system kind of thing, where they've put on like, place the long red bar here, place the short yellow bar here, put the other one here, and then basically like there's a puzzle of the red bar. When you push the plunger, the metal ball will hit the red bar and go into a slot that is not the one that you need it to go into. So you then need to add other plastic bars onto the plastic to make it work. So think of it a little bit like Pachinko, or those old pinball table things before pinball was a real thing. Do you remember those? We used to have those with, like, my gran would have one, and they'd be in like little seaside houses and stuff like that.
But this is like something that you can adjust the pattern.
Exactly. So you get these like levels, right? And so the game idea itself is you're figuring out puzzles, and you have to, you know exactly what you need to do. That's what you need to do. And sometimes you'll put little metal balls in with next to the little plastic things. You have to knock two balls out, so you have to get two into the bottom of the thing, but you only using one ball that's at the top of the plunger thing. And so really, really good game concept for like a puzzle, very light, physical board gamey-esque kind of thing. Like, it's definitely in Gen 42's wheelhouse. Like, it feels like, yes, it's right that a board game company should make a thing like this. Yeah. But it definitely skews really young. Here's the man. Oh, super young. Like,
that surprises me, considering how like internalized in terms of a puzzle system you make it sound, that you've got to. Are you sort of like trying to imagine what the ball will do?
Yes.
Before.
Yes.
And then place everything and then hope that it works out.
Yeah, exactly. And you're trying to figure out. It's kind of like a Rube Goldberg machine, right?
Yeah, that sounds really advanced for a young child.
But they get it because there's a very with a bit of help, from mum and dad, they'll get it. You know what I mean? Because it's just the ball is here, the ball needs to be here. Figure it out, and you can figure it out together. And I do think that it skews young, and I think that there is definitely it could go quite wide in terms of its demographic. However, here's the crazy thing: this is a game called Feed Me, and I was looking at it and I was like, this reminds me of something, like a lot. The art for it, which I want to show you this here, right? The art for it screams Cut the Rope, which is a mobile game, right? But it has got, as far as I can tell, it's got nothing to do with it. Like, it's not a license, but it looks like. So there's this character is called Chewy, right? And in Cut the Rope, he's called Om Nom. And the game is called Feed Me. And the idea is that in Cut the Rope, you're feeding a candy by doing a set of puzzles through physics to get it to the bottom of a map to actually, like, feed Om Nom, right? And this is the same. You're taking these metal balls at the top of the thing, and you need to get them into a specific space. And it even uses the visual identity of candy, because the idea is that, like, the candy marker represents where you need to get the ball to. And, like, two things struck me out of this. One, I really wish they hadn't, like, wholesale lifted this, because it looks really cheap. Like, I really feel like this visual style is like, it just feels like a rip-off, and I don't like that, because I really like the game. I think the game is really neat, and I would really recommend, like, playing the game. It's coming out at the end of this year for Christmas. And then the other thing is, like, are we really at the point now where, like, our visual motif is mobile games? Because I think that's really interesting if we are. Like, is Cut the Rope such a cultural phenomenon that there are board game companies now that are basically just riffing off of it?
Could you say that the opposite is also true, that this is an image that they've created wholesale and mechanics they've created wholesale, and it's your experience in mobile games that's projecting?
Maybe it is. Yeah, it's a really odd one, and, like, I'm super conflicted on it, because I kind of feel like the game. I get it. I get the visual reference that they're trying to say, like, this, but this. I get the visual metaphor that they're trying to go with, but I kind of just feel like this game is so strong that, like, I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's fine, and maybe I'm reading a bit too much into it. But
I think it's also that physics games themselves are a thing that permeated the mobile market so much that they're sort of synonymous with that kind of platform, really. And now and it's something you don't really get on the board game space. You don't really get sort of physics based puzzles. You get puzzles based around dexterity, but not around, like, how is this object going to react to these forces that you're going to be putting on it?
There are a couple that, like, stretch that line, right? You've got, like, Mousetrap, maybe things like Kaplunk and Dread with the Jenga thing. But I don't really. Yeah, you don't see a lot. You don't see a lot of that.
There's also a visual shorthand which comes with stuff like this. So if you're trying to explain to a child how this physics-based board game works, and already in their head they are making some sort of visual shorthand links to, that mobile game that I played, then I definitely can understand why the visual markers might be a lot similar to other things that have existed before, because it just does a lot of the work.
It cuts to the chase
for you. And especially when you're marketing to children. It's the reason why, white man screaming in the corner with a helmet on is like the de facto iPhone clash and something, because it's a piece of visual shorthand to that kind of game that people are just like, well, that looks similar to something else that I've played, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so I'll enjoy this.
So
yeah,
I'll give that a go.
Definitely. But yeah, so as I say, it's called Feed Me. It's out at the end of this year. It's very obvious that they're going to try and get it into like toy stores, because I think that like potentially that's a good route for it. That was a really that was the thing I came away from that show going, wow, this is really neat.
What do you say?
Yes.
When you've done something good, like you've pulled something off, for want of a better word. Like, I want to say a celebratory ejaculation, but
yeah, let's. All right, okay. I know it's just the two of us, but let's keep it above the waist. What do I say? So,
like, for example,
yes,
you are playing what's a game or a video game or a board game or something that you've been playing recently?
Okay, so one that required me to shout or something. That was Ace Combat 7.
Okay, so you're on the last level of Ace Combat 7.
Yeah.
And you just pulled off a fancy maneuver.
All sorts.
What do you say in that moment? What's your go-to phrase, as it were?
I think I definitely do a bit of the old, as in like that sort of front. It's very much like front of the teeth, and like almost like I'm really struggling to get it out. I get the. I also get the. I tend to swear a little bit, which obviously I won't do now. But when I'm competing against myself, that's when I get the. When I'm competing against others, I don't really care. Like, I'm very, like, if I beat you at a game, Sam, I'd be like, well, we had a nice time. Whereas, like, if I'm beating a video game, it's like I've beaten my own clumsy hands to beat the level that has been set out in front of me.
What about if you were playing like a dice rolling game and you rolled exactly what you needed?
I might shout "get in" or something like that.
Because I've been shouting "woof."
Why? Okay.
And I don't know where it's come from. I don't know, and it's become such a pervasive part of my gaming personality that my wife had to bring me up on it this weekend.
Right.
Because we were playing. What were we playing? We played quite a few games this weekend. It was really good fun. We were playing Quantum. Which is a roll and write game from the makers of Quicks and Quinto.
Okay.
And I rolled what I needed in a dice throw, and I felt at that moment to go woof.
This feels like the sort of thing that somebody would shout in an episode of Blackadder.
Well, yeah. I think that's why it kind of made its way into my wife's attention at that point. That suddenly her husband was shouting "woof." Yeah,
I definitely support her nipping this in the bud, because that's not good. So do you bring any other animalistic sounds into moments of excitement in competition and gaming? Like, do you meow, for example, when it all goes wrong? Or...
I like a good oof, which is, I wonder where woof has come from as a natural evolution of the oof. There's been the woof.
Do you think that that's what dogs used to bark? Like, oof, oof, oof. Okay.
So, my wife said, maybe I should just replace it with "that's good," which I think has gone so far the other way.
Yeah. No, but I actually quite like that. I like the idea that, like, you might be, say, for example, raising the trophy at the World Cup, and instead of shouting,
woof,
woof, you might instead have, I don't know, whoever's playing football.
Go on.
Bruce Grobbelaar or something like
So
like
he did play football, yeah.
he's like raising the thing, and he just says, "That's good." Like, you know, maybe
That's nice.
that's nice. Hooray!
But that never really. But the problem with that's good is it doesn't really encapsulate the full gamut of emotions. So you get exactly the dice that you need, and so that's good.
Oh, that's good.
Whereas Woof was my kind of go-to ejaculation for all occasions.
Yeah. As I've said many times, I've been going on my relaxing kick, trying to chill out, Sam, trying to decompress,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
trying to like get into a good headspace.
So, like,
Yeah.
in terms of your relaxing thing, you are going to be making a 6-hour journey this weekend.
Ooh.
Because you're coming to visit me.
I am. I'm very excited.
And my wife.
Yes.
And my dog.
Am I allowed to say your wife, or is that going to be? Is she annoyed with it yet, or are we?
Well, no, because she's never really there when I say it. Because if she's there, then I don't need to go. I just go like, "This is Lisa."
But if you think you can get away with it, then obviously, then yeah, okay, fine. Yes, I have got a long journey, haven't I?
So, in terms of your efforts to relax, and you know, I find that bus journeys and train journeys in particular, and even airplane rides, are really good places to kind of practice that kind of thing. So I was reading a book on meditation and mindfulness, and the guy in it was kind of like, airplanes are just the best place to practice meditation because you've literally got nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So
what else are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. What else are you going to do? So it's just like, you're locked in a space. So it's the perfect kind of opportunity to just sit and have some time to yourself because you've got nothing. There's nothing else. And I guess a bus and trains are that kind. So what are you? You know, how are you going to tackle that conundrum?
I'm going to bring my Switch. I will probably bring a couple of little different devices. I might bring my Amazon Fire 10, I think it's called, because I've got comics on there and I'm reading through Invincible, so I might do that. I've got my audiobooks, which I like to sort of like, that gives me like a nice out, which is quite nice. And like playing on Switch, of course, like playing Stardew Valley and stuff like that. And I'm not super far into that at the moment. I've only put my 40th hour into it.
Not that far into it.
So don't really want to commit to what I think about that. But yeah, so definitely games like that have taken a place in my heart of like trying to... Those kinds of games, Stardew, and before that, like City Skylines, the Green expansion, and like definitely mindfulness-y games that just like are not stressful. They just take you into like a different headspace where you can just be like, okay, I can do this repetitive thing and kind of switch your brain off for a bit, or let the brain go and do something different for a bit.
Yeah.
And I found that that's been really, really useful. The Switch really is just it's an incredible device. Like the stuff that's on it it's probably the best purchase I've made in just absolute ages. Like, it's brilliant.
Definitely.
It's like it's the Vita I always wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And how amenable and accessible it is. Like when you got friends over or you want someone else to pick up and play it, it's super easy to get a hold of. And I'm the same at the moment. I've been looking for that game that will help me relax and sort of take it easy. I guess if I'm not feeling particularly like healthy mentally, which I've not been lately, I tend to veer towards things like FIFA and Football Manager. But it's only recently I figured out that those gameplay loops aren't necessarily positive experiences for me.
Why do you think that?
Well, because I can play like FIFA
Yeah.
for 3 or 4 hours easily, and the time will just pass, and I'm kind of in an automatic mode. But I'm not always rewarded for that time that I put into it.
Right.
So I could lose all those matches I play. And the only reason I'm putting the extra hour into it is I just lost the last match and now I need to try and make up for it and win.
Yeah.
And then if I do win, that win is just like, well, that means nothing unless I play another game and like build on that success. And I think I've only just realised now like how that's not necessarily, for me, how that's not necessarily like helping my mental health in a way, like especially if I'm trying to use those games as a way of recuperation, as a way of sort of mild therapy. I don't think it really helps.
I completely agree, and like it's definitely something I use as well, because I think one of the things that really like grabs my brain and just like makes it, you know, I sometimes I talk about you know, having lots of like a loud brain. You know what I mean? Like where your brain is just constantly like, do this thing. If you're not doing this thing, you're not making progress. If you're not making progress, then and it's really harmful, because it's like we're so constantly connected with everything and everyone, right? And this constant pressure I feel like people are under with things like there's always that constant pressure of like, what do you mean you don't watch Game of Thrones? What do you mean? What do you mean you haven't read all the news? Or like, what do you mean? Like, there's this just constant like almost throughput of stuff. It really makes my brain real loud. And I agree. Like, I definitely use games, and I've been using games recently to calm that down. Like, and I feel personally like specific management games like City Skylines and Project High Rise and Stardew Valley and stuff like that, they're all games where if you put 4 hours into them, the minimum you can do is no progress. There is never an anti-progress. Not really. Like, once you get to a point with cities, for example, it's just like, this thing's going to run itself and it's going to be fine. And there is something quite rewarding about just being in a space and the game saying, thanks for hanging out with us. Like, here's just a nice thing. Like, you know?
And it's also that feeling of not always having to consume stuff or reach the next target or compete. So the sort of like too long don't read version of this is that I found the game, and it is Stardew Valley. Like I've just sort of in the second or third hour of playing that, and it's been a really good experience for me, because it allows me to not only relax with no sort of pressure of getting achievements, which I think if I had it on the PlayStation or the Xbox or whatever, I would feel like, well, now I've got an achievement for doing that, and now I'll go for the next achievement. Whereas when you're actually playing the game free of those things, as you do on the Switch, because there's no achievement system, it's just like, well, the carpenter in the town, Robin, like, if you go and give her some stuff, she'll build you a coop in which to get chickens. But if you don't want chickens, you don't have to have chickens. You can just go around the town and just do whatever you want. And I kept Stardew Valley at an arm's length for quite a long while, because I thought it would turn into a second job almost. That all I'm doing is turning it on and tending to my crops every day. But so far it's not really felt like that, because it's kind of just sits into this part of my life where I allow myself to switch off whilst playing it, just for like a short day cycle, and that cycle of like waking up and falling asleep, which is how your day doesn't save unless you do that. It's such a nice way of like bookending that experience. It's like, well, now it's time for me to, like, that's it, I've had my time, I've done my stuff, like, that's it. But it was actually in the process of trying to find that game that would be a nice sort of leveler, I guess, in helping me get back to a bit more of a healthier mental state, which I found a game that I'd never heard of before.
Right.
And it is called, and let me check this, it is called Dandy Dungeon, Legend of Brave Yamada.
Okay.
Now, this is made by a company called Onion Games,
Yes.
which I was vaguely aware of because they released a mobile game called Million Onion Hotel,
Yes.
which is meant to be good
Yes,
and
it is,
interesting. And they also released for the Switch and PC an operatic bullet hell shooter called Blackbird,
Yep.
which is also super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then digging into, and this is the reason why I picked up this game, was that the designer, Yoshiro Kimura, was the producer on No More Heroes, Shadows of the Damned, No More Heroes 2.
Awesome.
And the music was done by a guy, Keiichi Sugiyama, who did the music to Daytona USA, Sonic Heroes, Child of Eden, Rez, and Marion Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games.
The greatest work.
So Dandy Dungeon is very simple. You play as a 36-year-old. It's very, very precise. 36 or 38, one of the two. A middle-aged, shall we say, close to middle-aged game developer,
right,
who quits his job at Empire Games.
I see. Subtlety is
which sort of mirrors the creator's own experience with the larger gaming market.
Yeah,
and ends up making this game, Dandy Dungeon, in his pants. In his room, and it's during this he falls in love with a neighbour of his called Maria, and he decides to put Maria into his game, and she becomes the sort of the princess that he is going to try and rescue through this game he's designing. So there's kind of like this meta which feeds into, or this meta story which feeds into what is actually happening in the actual game, in inverted commas.
Sure.
So like, people turn up in his life, like his boss turns up to fire him because he's not turned up for weeks because he's been so busy sitting in his pants and making a game. So therefore he puts his boss as a boss in the game and asks you as the player to debug it. That's essentially what you're doing. When you're playing his game, you're just debugging it, getting rid of all the stuff that doesn't really work. And
sure.
But the actual mechanic is actually something that's quite meditative, which I quite like, which is you're giving an entry point on a grid, and you're given an exit, and the idea is for you to draw a path from your entry point to the exit, trying to hit every single square on the way whilst also killing all the enemies on the way to that exit. You can just draw like a line as a crow flies, shortest possible path to the exit, and then that be done with. Or you can try and see if you can find the most efficient and useful path to get all the way around, going over every space, killing over every enemy, picking up every item, and then finishing the level.
Right.
And I guess it's a bit like Feed Me in that way. I love the idea of looking at something and going, how am I going to solve this? What is the way that I'm going to do it? And when I was looking for that game, when I was looking for that kind of restorative game that would put me in help me try and find this better sort of a state of mental health, like that really appealed to me at the time, because I thought, I saw myself sort of thinking I can just sit there in my Switch and have a look at these puzzles and find my way around it.
I actually picked this up on mobile ages ago, and I basically just churned off it immediately. I saw all the visuals and stuff, and I was like, this seems mad and totally up my street. And then and then for some reason it just didn't stick. Like it just
So this is the reason why I kind of bounced off it as like the game I need right now.
Yeah.
Is that it did used to be a mobile game, and it used to be a mobile game that exploited every single mechanic and tactic in the rule book for trying to get money out of you as a player. So it had an energy system.
Sweet.
It had 3 different types of currency. Powers are all on a cooldown system. All your powers and items break after certain amounts of time. Really good things in the shop are super expensive to buy. If you fail in a dungeon, you can always use one of those rice balls to bring you back to full health.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I read an article on Kotaku by Rich Stanton about this game, and basically saying that this version on the Switch is the version that it was always meant to be, and that it was the fact that they're such a small company trying to just make ends meet that they put all these things into a game, that now it's on the Switch and you pay full price for it. All those things have been slightly ironed out, and now it's just an RPG puzzle sort of dungeon crawler game.
It's a I don't know, maybe not pure. It's an experience where the money mechanic isn't as prevalent. I think that's the thing that pisses people off the most about free to play. It's when you can feel the monetization affect the game that people get really annoyed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I think that's kind of it's interesting, and I think it's really the reason why I bought the game was that I was super interested in to see what happens to a game that is built around microtransactions when it gets turned into a game that suddenly you pay and everything's just unlocked, as it were.
Yeah.
And the effect is super interesting because it's kind of, it behaves like they're all still there, but they're not. So I sort of play it, and I'm expecting at any point for it to turn around and ask me for a $5, so I can unlock a suit of armor, or
Sure.
I'm expecting it to just turn around and go, no, you're gonna have to grind for 10 hours to actually get that. When you play a game that has microtransactions in, but they're just cosmetic.
Yeah.
And you can get it if you want, but you really got to work hard to do
it.
Yeah. And I kind of still have dipped back into it now and again, and I think it possibly will be a game for a long journey, or for like sitting and while I'm on the couch not really watching TV.
Yeah.
But it is also super expensive for what it is, really, which is a massive shame.
Yeah, but things are always going on sale, don't they? You pop it on the old wish list, and then you know what I mean. Like it's if you're in a rush to play it, sure, but it's one of those things of like you pop it on the old wish list, and then you're like, right, it's down to what do you think would be sweet spot for you for this? What are this? At what point do you like, yep, commit to that? Beautiful.
Well, the thing is, it's like £19 RRP, and again, with the shadow of this used to be a free-to-play mobile game.
Yeah.
And it was 30% off when it came out, and I had some Switch credit that needed to be used up because I didn't realise that it just disappears after a certain amount of time. So I was able to kind of get it for underneath a tenner, and I feel like that's what it would be worth. And reading around it, if this is the kind of game that you enjoy, like grindy RPG, grabbing loot, upgrading it, like crafting materials, having sort of interesting adventure, then you could spend like 40-50 hours of this game and really, really get your money's worth. And I think, and I hope in future I'll be in a better place kind of with my games to really delve into that, where I won't feel like it's a necessarily harmful experience. Like I'm just playing it to go the next level or just move on to the next step.
Yeah.
But at the moment, Stardew Valley is the thing that's kind of doing that for me.
When you've put a few more hours in, we'll discuss.
Because we can do co-op.
We can do co-op, can't we? We can go and have a lovely run around on the farm, and I must have put in total about 65 hours in now because I also have a physical version of the PS4 version, and I put like 24 hours in until it just stopped reading the disc. Which
if I literally like crumbled the disc.
Well, when you're playing a game to sort of like counter anxiety, it's just like and now it's like, oh no, it didn't work. But
will it read the disc this time?
Who knows?
So I was hoping that my wife, she's repeatedly said to me that she has certain things she wants to ask you specifically.
Good Lord.
She's getting her nails done though, so she's
okay.
Not going to make it. So can we? I don't know. We got anything?
Yeah, we definitely have a listener question sent to us by the effervescent Adam Edwards via Facebook, and
ooh, that's a new one.
Yeah, and you can also send stuff through Twitter, email. All that stuff, that's all on stayinginpodcast.com. You can just go over there, you see all the stuff, it's fine, you'll be fine, you'll find it, it'll be great, it's easy. And Adam says that they borrowed this one from Greg Miller on Twitter a couple of years ago, but the idea of the question has stuck with them for a while.
Okay.
So
can we pretend that it's Greg Miller, video game superstar, asking us this question?
Yeah, okay, so let's pretend. Okay, so it's Adam.
Rewind.
Okay, it is definitely not Adam Edwards with his hand up Greg Miller like a puppet. It's definitely not that. Don't imagine that. So Greg Miller asks, so many video games offer a plethora of in-game stats from your playthrough, e.g. miles driven, kill-death ratios, percentage complete, etc. When you meet St. Peter at the pearly gates, what real-life statistic would you like to know? And you only get to choose one.
Only one?
And it has to be a real-life statistic.
I mean, immediately I'm thinking...
Be careful. This is your one.
But can I not think about several?
Okay, you can think about several, but you can only express one.
So I'm just going to sit in silence.
Let's just sit here quietly and think about what we've done.
See, we should have done this with more people so someone else could go first.
Well, yeah.
I mean...
Life statistics. What do you do in life? Okay, so what do you do in life? Let's think out loud so that we get around Adam's thing.
Okay, well, I think I've eaten a sandwich and a packet of crisps for lunch.
Yeah.
Every day for maybe 25 years. So seeing that as a statistic, I'm not asking for it.
No.
I'm just saying like seeing that as a statistic would be interesting.
It'd be fascinating, wouldn't it?
It would be fascinating. I mean, I've already got Score Pal now, so I know exactly how many board games I'm winning and by how much.
Perfect.
And, what my H index is,
right.
All that kind of stuff. So I don't need to know that. Obviously, I ate a bug the other day whilst I was out running. I'm sure that's one of a lot.
Oh, no, I wouldn't want to know that stat.
How about... No, I can't ask that.
Do you know what? I think I would love to know...
How many hearts broken?
0. I would love to know how many times I have dropped the F-bomb. Actually, no.
Really?
I would love to know. Actually, no. A better statistic. I would love to know how many times I've dropped the C-bomb because I'll bet it's way more than I would be proud of. Like,
but again, right? Here's the thing. This is your Woof.
Woof. She's winning.
as with all things, you got this is your one stat you're going to be with for eternity.
Yeah.
So you want something that's going to be something you can pick apart.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So if you're just like, how many times have I said that word?
Yeah.
I know immediately your response will either be, that's a lot, or not as much as I thought. And then what else are you going to do with that information?
Yeah, then Sir Peter will be like, I didn't really want to have to use that word. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I retract the statement. Do you know what would have been good? The statistic that would be a fun one to like chew over is like, if my life, because I'm dead at this point, right?
Yeah.
I hope so. Otherwise, something's gone very wrong in admin. So if my life had gone differently, as in at every single possible moment in my life, if I'd made all the right decisions to do such a thing, I would like to be given a statistic of how much total money I earned over my actual life, and then the total amount of money I could have earned if I'd have made every single right decision and taken every single opportunity I was given. And then,
but why would you? Why would you torture yourself?
Because I would love to. Well, I'll be dead, and money. It doesn't matter. You can't take it to the grave, right? But like I would love to know the difference, and then because that would be a fun puzzle. I'd be like, all right, cheers. Then go past the gates, and then start thinking about like where were all the decisions I could have made that would have led me to earning like huge sums of cash versus the piddling trifle that I have today. Like, do you know what I mean? I would love to know like how much more, because like how much more wealthy could I have been? That's like a figure that I can place on my life, not like how much happier could I have been? How much more? I don't know. Like that doesn't feel like a good one because it's like too ethereal. Like how many more ladies could I have kissed? Like that feels.
You could have kissed a lot, but you would have been in prison.
Right,
you know.
right, exactly. But that would be quite creepy, and I wouldn't want to ask St. Peter that one. But I think money is an interesting one because then you can just go and think about it for a bit.
How about how many times did I nearly die?
Oh, that would be a really good one. Do you get to know how? No, you have to think. You have to think about what they are. You have to think. Oh, but how close was I? I went like 8. 8.
8.
Like how? Why? What were the 8? Like I can think of 4. Like that. Like, do you know what I mean? That would be really good. That would be a really good puzzle teaser. And like
that time I climbed the ladder one time. That was definitely one.
Yeah. Like St. Peter just winks you in, and you're just like, what? Like. That'd be a really good one.
Yeah, if you turned around and went 42, it's like,
yeah,
what?
In you go. You're just like, what? Oh, that'd be no. Do you know what? That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Let me go and see. Hang on a second. Hang
on. I can already feel this is going to be the greatest.
Can you hear him?
Hello.
Oh my god! I've always wanted to do this.
Right, hang on. We got to. My wife's just walked in.
Okay.
I've got a handheld microphone.
And you've got You've got your own handheld microphone.
Have we got a stinger for this? Have we got the Lisa track?
Do you want me to sing one?
Yeah, you can sing your own.
Yep.
No, you've said it now.
Said it now. So we need a little bit of humming or
you've
something.
You've said it now. You've come into the room whilst we were trying to answer a question.
So can we get like a little a hum sting or something like that, and that'll be like your intro.
Yeah. Just hum something.
I feel on the spot now.
Okay.
There you go, that could be it.
You promised the world.
Right.
Okay, so now you're on the spot. Yeah. The reason why I've dragged in my wife is
You're not going to have a wife.
Is that we've been asked a question.
Yes.
I thought you would like to ask it.
Yes.
Answer it.
Yeah.
With us. Me and Pete have already answered it.
Yeah.
Is it about biscuits?
It's not
about biscuits. No, it's less important than that. So the question is as follows: when you get to St. Peter at the pearly gates, you've died. we've covered that. Which of your real life statistics would you like to know?
What one? So Pete, what was yours?
So the one. So I would like to know if I made all the right decisions in basically, if I made all the right decisions in life from day one all the way to day dead.
What quantifies a right decision?
Just the decision that would get me to earning more money, right? I want to know how much money could I have earned over my life versus how much money I actually earned over my life, based on if I'd have made every single decision correctly to make the most amount of money. I would love to know that, because that would be like a real puzzle about wow, which decisions.
You could think about that for eternity.
Yeah, I could think about that.
The idea.
So Sam's, of course, was excellent.
Mine was, how many times did I nearly die?
I can put the microphone closer, doesn't mean the sound's going to come out my mouth. Sam's telling me to put the microphone closer to my mouth. Oh, I don't know. I'm too distracted by your facial hair, Pete.
What do you mean, my facial?
Okay, do you want me to get rid of him?
No,
I can
no,
stick
no,
a post-it note over him.
No, stop being over dramatic. I feel like you should prep me for this.
Well, we've not prepped for it.
Yeah.
So it could be how many times you've scratched your legs.
Go on. Yes.
How many times you've shaved your knees.
Yes.
How much money you've spent on digestives.
I'd like to know.
Okay.
Oh, that's throwing us far in the words. How many paracetamol tablets that I have taken in my whole life?
Oh. Ooh.
I'd like to see that.
You'd like to see?
Oh, no, the best one. I can't believe I didn't think about this.
Okay.
What would have happened if I'd said no when Sam asked me to marry him in the middle of the lake?
But that's not a stat.
I've always wondered this. But that's a better question. You think of alternative. Okay, how many other husbands would I have had if I'm not married?
Yeah. I like the audacity that you would go up to Saint Peter, and you'd just be like, "That's a rubbish question." Right, here's the question I want to ask.
What would have happened if? That's a good thing to think about.
It'd be like Lisa. There are quite a lot of people in the queue. There's
usually people say how many spiders did I eat? How many plasters did I lose?
I don't care about any of that though.
Didn't you care how many times you cut your hair?
Yeah.
No.
How many?
I do sometimes think about how much time have I spent on washing my face and brushing my teeth. I think about that nearly every evening, every morning, and in a quite sad way, I do try and think, I wonder how much this equates to of my life.
Yeah.
Like the amount of time spent sleeping. All these stats are really interesting. How much time did I spend sleeping? How much time did I spend eating? How much time did I spend stifling a fart?
How much time do I spend wasting thinking about all these times?
Yeah. An hour and a half every 2 weeks.
I'd like to know how much money I ended up giving to charity by only ever giving my 1s and 2p's away when I've been shopping.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah. See.
Hippies.
That was Staying In with myself, Sam Turner, Peter Willington, and very special guest, my wife. If you'd like to put a question to any of us, just like Adam did, then please just send them along at any time. Just send us an email, stayinginpod@gmail.com. Let us know on Twitter, Facebook, or even the brand new Instagram. If you want to stay up to date with what we've been playing, either virtual or physical, then on Board Game Geek and Steam, we have curation pages where we let you know all the latest of what we've been talking about on the podcast. But for now, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, woof.